Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Andriy Shevchenko, and on behalf of the team of Ukraine Media Center Ukrinform, I want to thank all the journalists who tell the world about our fight for freedom. Today we're having a special event. We will be talking about the war, about the documentaries, and about victory. Artem Shevchenko is finishing the cycle of documentaries about the military intelligence of Ukraine. What will be shown in those documentaries, Andriy will be telling us right now. Good afternoon. I'm happy to see everybody here. My name is Artem Shevchenko. I'm a journalist. On the 24th of February, I joined the Defense Forces of Ukraine. I was on active service during spring and summer in Kharkiv and Kiev regions. And it happened so that on the 7th of September, Andriy is joining us. Andriy Yusov is the representative of Central Intelligence Department. Well, on the 7th of September, it's the professional holiday of military intelligence. The Ministry of Culture announced a bid for creation of products which would have covered war according to the resolution of the government. Since I had an experience of cooperation with the Ministry of Culture and Information Policy in documentaries, we made a documentary about liberation of Mariupol and about Guard Markiv, and I thought it's a good idea to show the activities of military intelligence. Those were the days of successful counteroffensive in Kharkiv region, so I wanted to make a trilogy. I called them the military intelligence of Ukraine in the skies, on the land, and in the seas. So we've picked 3 operations which the military intelligence was involved in, and we tried to make it as a documentary in a very concentrated manner. The documentary The Skies is about the air logistic operation of supply of everything that was needed by the defenders of Azovstal. The land is about the counter-offensive, which is most efficient and most successful in terms of liberation of territories, is the example of an obvious success of our defense and security forces. And the documentary C is about the fight for the Snake Island. I appreciate all the support of Central Intelligence Department who cooperated in creation of this trilogy, and I appreciate the support of Ministry of Culture and Information Policy, who extended all necessary assistance, and it's a good tradition already, and I appreciate help and support of everybody who got involved in creation of this trilogy. Some of the people are present here in this studio. First of all, Yevhen Solovyov, he's the rotary wing aircraft pilot. He's the hero of Ukraine. So let's greet him. And call sign Molfar is one of the protagonists of our trilogy. He was the head of communications and signal at Mariupol Defense Headquarters, officer of the Special Operations Detachment Azov of the National Guard of Ukraine. Let's greet him too. So Molfar was evacuated by the first flight from Azovstal due to injury. Yevhen was making a flight missions to Azovstal, and he could make it back after he was shot by a enemy rocket, which did not explode though in the engine. So he could make it back from Azovstal, saving 2 injured other servicemen. So it's the example of professionalism and bravery of our pilots. And also Yevhen was flying to Azovstal on the 8th of May during air raid mission that we will be telling you about now. So just so you have imagination of what's going on in the documentary, I offer you to see a small piece of footage. Project Military Intelligence of Ukraine on the land, in the skies, and on the sea. Air raid to Azovstal in the skies. A cruel war never seen by the war since World War II. In such a big number from the territory of Kherson and Zaporizhia regions, Mariupol, the city of St. Mary, a metallurgy center on the shore of Azov Sea. We needed volunteers for the flight to Mariupol. It was encircled, it was besieged. 86 days of siege of the garrison by the aggressor forces. We were able to maintain the garrison. People got hope. They've seen that we were not forgotten. 7 flight missions by 16 helicopters through very dense defense of air defense of the enemy. 64 injured, evacuated, 72 airborne defenders. We were understanding that sooner or later some of us may not be coming back. A unique air operation by the military intelligence of Ukraine, one of the best operations during this war. The names of the heroes carved in steel in the world history. The operation for evacuation of our defenders from Azovstal was initiated by our defenders, the intelligence forces. Kharkiv region, the land. The most successful Ukrainian counteroffensive operation during this war. This is what's going to happen to all of them. Kharkiv is a Ukrainian city. 8,500 square kilometers of land taken back. Well, it's maybe 2,000 square kilometers less. About 400 settlements liberated. 91st Brigade liberated one part of the city, we liberated the other one. 150,000 locals liberated from occupations. We were waiting for you so long. Kharkiv counteroffensive operation is the military masterpiece of the strategic level, so we pass the intelligence to the headquarters. It's my honor to thank you for liberating our country from the enemy. Battle for the Snake Island on the sea. Sun in the legends, the most remote piece of Ukrainian land in the Black Sea. The Snake Island is the strategic spot and it changes the situation in the Black Sea. A temple to Achilles was built in the ancient times here. The special forces of military intelligence were assaulting the Snake Island. The unique video of the heroic breakthrough on the 8th of May. The military intelligence did a lot to take the island back, and we made it initially. The Russian cruiser Moscow, who was sent to the known 3 letters. Well, there is no place for a vessel like this in the Black Sea. The battle for the Snake Island as a symbol of Ukrainian victory over Russian aggressors in the sea. Project Military Intelligence of Ukraine on the sea, in the skies, and on the land. I think we got this perception of the uniqueness of material Artem was working with, and I want to say that back in the day, Artem was a brilliant reporter, brilliant military journalist. He headed the communication department in the Ministry of Interior, and started his military service in 2022. How this journalist experience was unique to you? It's not your first journalist product and not the first product about the war, but what makes this experience unique? It was difficult within a short period to gather everything and to rethink it in a creative manner and to demonstrate it, first of all, in a manner so everyone could comprehend and open some pieces that were not opened before. And this is why I appreciate the cooperation and trust of the Central Intelligence Department, and I appreciate the support of Ministry of Culture and Information Policy that they gave me the opportunity to make this project. Mr. Taras, just a couple of words. I wanted to make a joke that everybody should have the last name Shevchenko during this event today, but probably jokes are not so relevant today. So just making a step forward, I would like to say we're not relatives, but we're still joined by the same thing we're doing. Mr. Taras Shevchenko, Deputy Minister of Culture and Information Policy. Well, it was an honor for us to support a project like this, and even this short video was enough for you to understand that what was done was a unique job, and everything that was documented, those were fantastic operations performed by intelligence forces and other military. It's very important material to be documented and to be preserved. We are very happy, and we were happy to support this project and previous ones, and we hope there will be more projects to support with Artem or other production initiatives, because when they're happening, it's very important part for preservation of national memory. Documenting of crimes, which is not less important, and very important memory about all the heroic events and heroic deeds that were done. And I appreciate all the work done by the intelligence forces and for other military for their heroic job they're doing. Our small role was to allocate the funds for this and to make this project come true. I appreciate the work of everybody who fights and keeps fighting for Ukraine. Thanks, Artem, for making this documentary. Andriy, Yusov, Central Intelligence Department of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. We understand that there is a challenge. We want to demonstrate the heroism, the real results of the work of the intelligence forces and other representatives of defense forces, but maybe we don't want to open all the cards, so we will need it further on in the war. How was this problem solved? Well, from the very beginning, there was a lot of hesitation when the idea itself emerged, because the war is still going on and the liberation of the territories is still going on. And in fact, every operation that was covered is a tension point. Like the Snake Island was bombarded recently, and the operation of the occupation of Mariupol and return of all our prisoners of war who are still in Russia. It still has to be done. And Kupiansk, we are hearing that Kupiansk is still under the strikes by the enemy, but there is already history of success, history of heroism, history of victories. So this is why General Budanov supported it. He said that people should know. Well, maybe he should be present here himself today, together with those special forces representatives who were taking part in those operations, but they are on those hot spots in Ukraine now, or otherwise they are in the hospitals. Still, the country has to know about the successful operations. I'm not talking about intelligence forces alone, but about all the defense forces. Everybody should understand the level of effort from the very beginning until the moment of performance itself. So I appreciate the work of all the persons involved, including Ministry of Culture and Information Policy. We know that the National Marathon should show the documentary in spring, and then the whole of Ukraine and the rest of the world. And I would like it to be not only a trilogy, because the war is still going on and we will eventually deoccupy all the territory, and that will be the main movie which we will be working all together Yevhen Solovyov, Deputy Commander of Helicopter Combat Squadron. You were going through these dramatic episodes, you were participating in it, and now you can see it from with someone else's eyes, so to say. So how is your impression? Good afternoon, good morning, everybody. I want to appreciate all the help of the organizers and everybody present here, because it helps us to tell everything about the deeds of our heroes, and when they gave something most precious for them, their health, and in some cases, unfortunately, it was their lives, because thanks to works like this, we will remember them, and as long as we remember, they will live eternally in our hearts. So thanks, everybody. Molfar, you're one of the protagonists of this movie. Molfar is the deputy commander of brigade. I understand that there were changes since that episode described in the documentary, but Molfar will probably tell about it himself. Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody who's present here, especially the pilots. That will be a very special friendship that started between our Commander Redis and Intelligence Commander General Budanov, and together with the pilots of military aviation, they did a great job, actually. And what we're seeing, 64 servicemen rescued. Those are the people who have unique experience, who got back not after the heavy injuries, but they got back in the ranks, and they continued doing their job. And thanks to that operation, it was possible to create the 12th Brigade on the base of Azov regiment. We have the staff who has unique experience, who will continue taking part in combat operations to liberate the rest of our country. So this operation could be seen as something that did not have such that was not so significant, but it was really significant because we were able to deliver necessary anti-tank rockets to Azovstal and means of communication and signal, so the whole world could see what was going on in Azovstal, in Mariupol. So I appreciate the work done by Artem, so that everybody could know the details about what was happening, so we can pass it on to the next generations and to demonstrate it to our people in Ukraine, so they see the price which is paid for our victory. Well, we have opportunity to ask questions if there are any on the floor. Good afternoon, Svetlana Tkachuk, Ukrinform. My first question will be to Mr. Artem. You mentioned that the movie will be shown all across Ukraine, so we understand the audience is Ukraine. But do you plan to use this documentary as a training material in future? Because I mean, it's a documentary format. And my another question will be to all the speakers: what are the other events of the Russian-Ukrainian war that should be documented as the documentary movies? Thank you. Well, we are currently in negotiations with the... Well, first of all, we wanted this movie to be demonstrated in the National Marathon News United. We are in negotiations with them to find the spot in their schedule, and we are interested in the widest possible distribution of this movie. Those are short movies, 40 minutes each, and we will appreciate the help of everybody who would want to show it in their broadcast. It will be on the platforms of, for example, in the YouTube channel of Central Intelligence Department, and it will appear in broadcast, like right after the movies or before the movies or before other things like news blogs shown in the TV channels, and as soon as it's available worldwide, it will be used wherever it would be possible. It's not a training movie, I would say. It's a military chronicles, I would say. But it's demonstrated emotionally through direct participants on different levels, and they are the, for example, head of the commander of Ukrainian intelligence, General Budanov, or other persons who were involved to different extents to this or that operation. And what's most important with the direct participants of that operation, two of whom are currently present here, and the representatives of the special forces of Ukraine, who are shown in this movie incognito. So I think it will be interesting to see to a lot of people who are interested in military history, but even from the point of view of what's going on in the country now. So we were not trying to tie ourselves to anniversary of the beginning of the war, but that's already a segment of time after which you want to turn around and see what happened. They are sequenced chronologically. The flights to Mariupol, the end of March, beginning of April, the operation on the sea, the Snake Island. It's like April, May, June. It was liberated in the end of June, and the operation in Kharkiv region is the beginning of September. And the question was if anybody has any ideas what are the episodes which deserve to be documented in a way like this. I want to answer your question that, for example, defense of Kiev was a historic event, and there is a lot to tell about it to many people, the occupation of Kherson and Kherson region. But there are also operations about which we still cannot tell openly, but there is a lot of interesting things, even more interesting than what was shown today. Andriy, Molfar, well, about what deserves to be mentioned, that's somebody talks little about. So it's a heroic defense of Marienka and Avdiivka, and not a lot of people say about this, but the enemy did not advance a lot there. They did not advance at all. And there are many episodes like this all along the front lines, and it's a pity that a lot of people who take part in those operations, unfortunately, they perish and they would not be able to pass on their experience. Anyway, they don't have any opportunity to give any interviews because they're busy doing their job in the front lines. So I think that such operations that are such that deserve to be documented, there are lots of them. But there are people in National Guard of Ukraine, in the Armed Forces of Ukraine, and a lot of movies actually can be shot based on their examples. It's a very broad question because we're talking about a very big scale war. The front line, the length of the front line is comparable to the front line between Soviet forces and Soviet Union and the Germany, Nazi Germany back in World War II. Well, there may be a lot of operations mentioned, liberation of the North, Mashun, Irpin, and what's going on now, the fortress of Bakhmut, Vuhledar, and that's a subject to the documenting. And there are more general topics like the resistance movement, the operations in the temporarily occupied territories, the work done by civil population and special forces. It's the stories of volunteers, the diplomatic work, and tremendous job that we cannot tell you about now. But what's going on now in so-called Russian Federation, and there are a lot of fronts and areas like this. So I think that there will be feature movies and documentaries and other products that Ukrainians will have to make, and maybe not only Ukrainians, but the whole of the world, to see what's going on, what's happening in Ukraine currently. Well, I will probably reward the question. When Ministry of Culture takes a resolution about the allocation of funds for the projects about the war, what are the priorities? What is considered to be the most important? We don't decide what are the topics. When we announce a bid, we don't say that we want a movie or we want a documentary about the defense of Kiev or Kherson. Theoretically, it's possible, but the practice is such that the announcement is more broad, and those who apply, they give their proposals about the topics. And the commission appointed, they decide whom to support. Well, talking about the books, for example, there were a lot of books last year about Bucha, Irpin, Kharkiv, Chernihiv. The subjects of those hot spots where those heroic events were taking place. More questions in the studio, please. Fakty Igor Osipchuk. I have a question to Mr. Yevhen. Your flight to Mariupol was happening during night time. Could you tell us in more detail about how it was happening, and was it possible to repair the helicopter which was shot back then? Thank you for your question. The first part of the flight was during night time using the night vision devices, because the place of landing was near 3 surface-to-air missile systems, and when we were landing, all of them during landing and takeoff, they were in the same area, and night flight was what allowed us to reduce, not to avoid, but to reduce the risk during performance of this mission. And that specific helicopter was repaired in a week, and until this very day it still flies, and I was flying it a couple of times, and it continues defending our homeland. Please.
Steve Kleiman, Pacific Rex. You mentioned the documentary will be available on the Central Intelligence YouTube channel, and I'm curious how...
Give us 1 second. Якщо комусь треба переклад, у вас за спиною є вухо і можна послухати. Steve, I'll ask you to start over.
Okay.
Give us 1 second.
Steve Kleiman, Pacific Rex. You mentioned that the documentary will be available on the Central Intelligence YouTube channel. And I'm wondering how you get foreign audiences interested in this project. And specifically Americans. Do you think Americans will be interested? And secondly, is there a fundraising component directly tied to this project, raising money for Ukraine?
Now we are already thinking about the English version of all 3 movies, with either dubbing in English language or subtitles. It will require additional resources, but we already understand that the foreign audience will be interested in that. We know it's real, we know it's possible, and we hope that we will be able to find such solution, maybe with the support of Ministry of Culture and Information Policy, and we do understand it needs to be done, and we will do it. It will take some time, and English subtitles or full dubbing of all the 3 documentaries, 45 minutes each, it will take time, but I think we will make it so that the foreign audience could be able to see, to understand, and to feel what Ukrainian audience would feel. And any thoughts about fundraising? Well, obviously we will think about this thing. We will negotiated again with Ministry of Culture and Information Policy, because it will require certain resources, and probably we will resort to such thing. So is this current project related to this fundraising? Does it have any fundraising component? No, it doesn't have any. It's fully funded by the Ministry of Culture and Information Policy, but we will think about it because both Ministry of Culture and Central Intelligence Department, I think everybody is interested to have the audience expanded, to have it the broadest possible for these documentaries. Any more questions? Well, if there are none, I will have a question about the documenting of war in a broad sense. How possible is this? How needed is this, and how to do it? Well, I think that the more formats, the more generous we use to demonstrate the heroic deeds of our defense forces, both military and civil, the better. So for me, I've picked the format like this because I had experience in that, and it's easier to understand for the audience, but the more general, the better. The covering it in documentary format, well, there are a lot of stories to cover like this in both 2022 and even 2023, and I have pleasure watching everything presented by different authors, and I think this is the way we should follow. We're actually writing the history of this war. It's not yet written, not only in texts, but in video, in pictures. So in fact, we're doing it right now. We're writing the history of our resistance. We're writing the history of this war, which is absolutely unique. I mean, on the world level, we try to demonstrate part of such things in this trilogy. Molfar, Azov is known for their very special style of communication, and it was considered to be one of the strengths of the unit. How do you feel this balance, what to tell to the world and what to keep under wraps? Well, now that more than 700 of our brothers in arms are prisoners of war, it's very sensitive for us. We understand what we can say and what we cannot say, but we understand that there is a common goal, the victory. So we try to find this balance, not to make it worse for our brothers in arms who are imprisoned. And at the same time, those are brothers who are in the southern areas defending our country at this moment. We will do everything possible to win. We understand that it's only victory which will let us return all of our brothers, get them back. So it's difficult to maintain this balance, but we have a huge experience. We're in this war since 2014, and we try to communicate in a normal manner with the press service and with the Central Intelligence Department and other journalists to give the maximum information that we can provide. But we have to measure it properly because the information is sensitive, and only after our common victory, a big number of special operations performed both by us and by Central Intelligence Department and other units, there will be a lot of material that we unfortunately cannot disclose now. What can we say about the destiny of the defenders of Snake Island? I know that part of them are prisoners of war, but there are some whom we were able to get back. Yes, really, there is part of the defenders and significant part of the Snake Island and the significant parts of the defenders of Azovstal. They are prisoners of war in Russia, and the work is underway to get them back. Those who are already returned, they are on rehabilitation now, and they're trying to get back to their normal life to the extent that all of us can live normal lives, and they're getting back to the further performance of their duties. Those are really sensitive topics. And as to the documentaries and other products, reports, the main principle is not to do any harm, because everything is happening in real time, and at the same time there is Ukrainian opinion as to their Russian propaganda and Russian lies. For example, Ukrainian journalists show the truth in documentaries like this. The truth is on the side of humanitarian law, international law, and humanistic justice and fairness. But frequently we cannot show something that we want to show. We cannot let journalists to some spots where we would like to let them. But I appreciate all the work done by all the journalists, both Ukrainian and foreign, because it's a very powerful weapon. Any more questions in the studio? Good afternoon. What were the challenges you were facing during making this movie? Well, the most difficult was to make 3 45 minutes documentaries, and before the new year it was difficult to gather all the information. To write it, it was, I mean, from creative point of view and technologically, to edit it, it was a huge piece of work. I appreciate the support of all the guys, Sergei Lukin and Studio 8 Production, who helped me with that. My colleagues, Anton Goida, who was director of this project, I appreciate all their great job that we were able to make it within that short period, because it was a great challenge to me to make it within this short period of time. That was the most difficult thing. Any more questions? I will have one question probably to each of you. If you had to word it in one sentence, what you would like to deliver to this by this documentary to the Ukrainian and world spectator? Well, the main idea is that our military are capable of unique things that we can only see in Hollywood blockbusters of the top level. And I hope it is still ahead. But the operations that are covered here, in short, the raid on Zmiiny, the counteroffensive in Kharkiv region, the air raids on Azovstal, and this operation in Kharkiv region where unit Kraken was taking part, and the raids to Azovstal, which were done by Mr. Solovyov, present here, getting so deeply into the ranks of the enemy under conditions of this very dense air defense, but they made it successfully. They made it there and they made it back, even being damaged by enemy rockets. Those are unique battle operations, and they deserve to be documented, to be carved in the history of war, and they deserve to be learned by the others. Well, to remember the heroes and the heroic pages of our history, heroic deeds of our heroes, and these historic pages of Ukrainian-Russian war, to make people aware how incredible can be the things done by the regular Ukrainian people, because I've heard it a lot of times, like, he's the professional, he's a military, he can do it and I cannot do. But we have to remember that the military are just a regular common people. They have families, they have their opinions, their dreams. And even knowing the risk, even knowing that it may be their last battle operation, last day, they undertake all those risks, because they make it for the future. Because us, as the Ukrainians, we made our choice to be free. We've picked that bright side, and the regular people do incredible things. Thank you. I can only say that everything that seems impossible to you, it becomes possible as long as you have enough motivation. If you're motivated enough to do what you need to do for our common victory, you will be able to do it. If you have brothers, friends around you from your unit, from other units who are as motivated as you, who are motivated to do it together, you will do anything that seemed just impossible to you. Well, the fundamentals for success of those operations was the proper planning, the proper use of the intelligence data, and it's not a secret of some incredible, wonderful weapon. Is the fight of Ukrainian forces, Ukrainian defense forces, against the so-called Second Army of the world, against the prevailing forces of the enemy in all three cases. But there was one result, and it will be the same result. Russia will lose, Ukraine will return everything. Andriy, Yusov, Taras Shevchenko, Artem Shevchenko, Yevhen Solovyov, Molfar, documentary Military Intelligence of Ukraine. I invite all the journalists to follow our announcements at 13:30. We're waiting for the Minister of Culture and Information Policy, and we will be talking about the Heavenly 100 and the greeting of all the heroes of Russian-Ukrainian War. Stand with Ukraine.